The Bargeman by Gesualdo. Smoke rose from the chimney of the small stone cabin at the edge of the river bank. What river, you ask? Why, the Duglin River, which flows through Duglin, a vast kingdom of the good King Lion. King Lion ruled his kingdom with fairness as his ancestors did before him, and this river which separated his land into two parts had only two places to cross, and there was only one person who could get you across this part of the river. He was an old man, simply known as the Bargeman, and like the king, he had ancestors. But where the king ruled the land, the Bargeman ruled the river crossing. For you see, the Duglin River in this spot is very wide. Inside a stone cabin, the old man cooked his morning breakfast, and a hearty breakfast it was. For you see, to pole the barge across such a river, a man needed his strength. Eggs, pork strips, potatoes, and a variety of vegetables filled a large pan on the stove. Sitting on what space that was left on the stove was a pot of water for tea to wash it all down. Early every morning his first fares were the food carts going from one village to another selling their goods at the markets, and some of the peddlers would pay with their goods rather than with their coin. So this fine morning the bargeman would eat well. As the old man removed his food from the stove and carried it to a table in the middle of the room, he heard the sound of a wagon coming down the road. Looking out the window, he could see two men sitting on the wagon. One was a man in his middle age, and the other man was younger, but to the bargeman, everyone looked young. As the wagon pulled up, the bargeman stepped outside and eyed the two men in their large wagon with its team of horses.
"You old man, fetch me the bargeman. I need to get across the river at once, for I am late, you see."
The bargeman looked at the younger of the two men, then turned and looked at the older man.
"Sir, would you and your servant like to share a hearty breakfast with me? For you see, I was just preparing to have my morning meal, and would enjoy some company."
"Never mind your breakfast, old man. Fetch me the bargeman at once. I must cross this river now."
"You must not be from around here, sir, or you would know the river which you seek to cross is known as the Duglin River."
"Never mind the name of the river, you old fool. Fetch me the bargeman."
"Sir, I am the bargeman."
"Very well, fool. Make haste and take me across the river, for I must get to the castle on business and I do not wish to be late."
"But, sir—"
"No buts, old man. Do not make me late or I will let the king know of your hesitation to performing your duties."
The bargeman looked at the pan of food, and with no further thought, covered it with a lid and placed it aside. By the time he poled the men across and returned, his food would be cold and no longer edible. "So be it," thought the bargeman.
"Ride your wagon onto the barge, sir, and I will pole you across."
"Your fee? What is the fee, old man?"
"For you, sir, the fare will be the price of my breakfast, 20 pfennigs."
The man turned red-faced and bellowed back.
20 pfennigs? That's outrageous. No breakfast costs 20 pfennigs.
"Mine does, for you see, sir, I am a hearty eater."
"You old fool, the king will hear of this. First you overcharge me and now you make me late."
"Well, sir, you can stay on this side of the river, and I could go back to my breakfast."
"Enough, old fool. You will have your 20 pfennigs, but cross us now."
The bargeman looked at the unpleasant man and his servant, whom he felt sorry for.
"Very well, sir, as you wish."
Poling the large wagon across the river was going to be hard work on an empty stomach, and there was still the return trip to be made. Lunch will have to be even larger to make up for this morning, the bargeman thought to himself.
"Quickly, fool, I am late."
"Yes, sir,"
replied the bargeman as he poled, looking at the man's servant, giving a slight smile but not getting any response from the younger man.
"I warn you, bargeman, I will report you for this delay."
After a time they reached the opposite side of the river, and the man and his servant got on the wagon and rode off, but not before the man screamed at the bargeman one last time.
"If I'm late to see the king, it will be your fault, old fool."
The bargeman crossed back to the other side of the river and started to think about the hearty lunch he would make himself, and how he tried to tell the unpleasant man that the king's castle was on this side of the river.
"So who's the old fool now?"
The bargeman laughed.